On today's show, we continue to rank the top 25 players of the last 25 years for the Maple Leafs and discuss some contract comparables for Nick Robertson with his arbitration date now announced. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Leafs, Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's up, Dave? How are we feeling today, brother?
Feeling pretty good, better than the Yankees.
You're lying. Do you want to explain the crazy traffic story, horror story you just had?
Yeah, I told Mike, I'll be home 11 o'clock. We'll record. It's usually the time we record. GPS said, yep, you'll be home just before 11. Driving on the 401. Didn't notice that the Waze was telling me, don't take the express, take the collectors. Because, in Ontario, why would we ever put signs to say that the highway is going to be having lane closures for construction? Would be a smart thing to have. Did not see any of it. That half-hour journey home turned into just over an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's now 12:49, and we're finally getting ready to record this. Nearly 2 hours later, we're finally recording this podcast. So that's okay. We're still up. We're still cruising through. We still got a lot of podcasts to get through here. Nick Robertson, his arbitration hearing date has been set, so we'll tell you when the arb date is. And I've got 5 players that I think are perfect comparables for Nick Robertson that can help us land at a potential arbitration rewarding number, what he could possibly get in arbitration. And then it's time to continue our top 25 Leafs in the last 25 years segment. We've got players 11 through 15 to go on today's show. So 11 through 15, and then we'll get to the top 10 on next week's podcast. But let's quickly get through the Nick Robertson news here. The arbitration hearing now set for August 3rd. So August 3rd. So not too far from now. We're looking at about 10 or so days from now. Next Sunday is when we're going to know what exactly Nick Robertson's camp will, or I guess what the arbitrator will be rewarding Nick Robertson. And due to the fact that Robertson awarded or elected to go to arbitration himself, the Maple Leafs would get to pick the term. So they can either choose to give him a 1 or 2 year deal, depending on what the arbitrator awards him. And if, for whatever reason, the arbitrator awards Nick Robertson more than $4.85 million annually, the Leafs can walk away. But if it's less than that, the Leafs are forced to pay him the number that the arbitrator awards him. So that is kind of an interesting little wrinkle that is always involved when you see some players, get not get qualified. It's usually because teams have an inkling that the arbitration number could come in a little higher than they want. So they usually let them walk via free agency. It's kind of what happened to Dylan Strome when he was with Washington a couple of years ago. But the Leafs must feel pretty good with Nick Robertson and where they're at with the number, with their case that they're going to have to make. And we'll see what that happens on July 4th. Do you have a guess as to what it could possibly be on August 3rd? Sorry, August 3rd. Or what do you think he's worth, I suppose, is the better way to ask that, Dave.
Yeah, I think like Robertson must be asking for in the 2 range, right? Like 2.5 for what he had at his output last year. Obviously we know it hasn't been necessarily good enough to suggest that he's do a massive raise, but I mean, the guy had 15 goals in 69 games, which for a guy that played bottom six, that's not terrible. I think the Leafs are probably looking for like that one and a half, right? Like usually when you're going to arbitration or when you're getting this close to arbitration, there's a pretty wide gap, right? We've seen quite a few teams kind of, we've seen the last few days, teams have, I think they've avoided arbitration. They've found compromises. Like, I look at Kapokako recently just got redone with the Kraken, although he got quite a nice pay bump for
He did.
Gabe Velarde just signed his new deal. Like you're starting to see some of those deals, but like Robertson's an interesting case because the numbers would suggest that he's worth more than the 875 he got last year.
Mm-hmm.
How much more based on his lack of play time in the playoffs and just not consistently in the lineup, right? Like he didn't miss out on games because he was hurt. He missed out just because he wasn't
good enough
flavor of the day for Craig Berube.
He wasn't good enough. Ultimately, is the real answer, right? Wasn't good enough to stick in the lineup. But like when you look at arbitration and you look at it over the course of the last few years, it's almost as though they don't really care about the intangibles and stuff like that. They just look at pure production, it feels like. So, when you look at a guy, Nick Robertson, okay, 15 goals, 23 points in just, what do you play? 50, how many games is it? 50 some odd games, 69 games. 15 goals, 22 points in 69 games for him this year. Last year, 14 goals, 27 points in 56 games for Nick Robertson. When you equate it, actually, when you like try and look at the last 2 years combined on a per 82 game basis, he's averaging about 19 goals and 32 points. If he were to play 82 games, that's about what that output would give him. 19 goals, 32 points. So that's roughly the type of player he is. Sub 20 goal guy, about 30-ish points point guy. And that's really like, I don't know. It's a fourth liner who can chip in on the second power play is kind of what that production means or what that production kind of could give you. I have 5 player comparables who all signed contracts in the last 2 years that I think both parties are probably looking at and trying to make the argument that this is what I should be paid. I've got a couple high-end ones like Jack Quinn, who's getting paid $3.375 million. Niels Höglander is getting paid $3 million. I'm sure Nick Robertson will be looking at those two players as his comparable. Whereas maybe the Leafs are looking more at a guy like Bobby Brink or a guy like Mackie Samoskevich or Jonathan Berggren, who are all making under $2 million. Brink's making 1.5, Berggren 1.875. Samoskevich signed a deal. Now, he didn't have arb rights. All these other players did have arbitration eligibility when they signed their contract. Samoskevich just an RFA, so he only got 875 this year. But the points were kind of similar. I'm gonna pull up. I made a little chart, and I'm gonna pull up exactly where is it here. Where's this chart here? There it is. Okay. So here's a little chart that I grabbed of all the players that I think are considered comparables for Nick Robertson. You can see Robertson's numbers obviously there, 15 goals, 23 points, 0.32 points per game played. And all of these players are kind of in that range, right? When you look at it, right? Like Quinn, 15 goals, Brink, 12, Berggren, 12, Samoskevich, 15, Höglander, 8 goals, but 0.35 points per game, which is where Nick Robertson was at, right? So I think these 5 players are kind of what you're looking at. And if you take all of their AAVs, you divide it by 5, the average turns out to be 2.1 million. So that is the number that I think the arbitrator will probably have this contract come in at, about 2.1. So whether he's worth that, I don't know. If he's not an everyday player, I guess the answer is absolutely not. But if he can score 20 goals, which is what he's been on pace for anytime he's played over the last 2 years. Just hasn't played a full 82 game season, but when he does, he should be on pace for about 20 goals and 2.1 million for a 20 goal scorer who doesn't do a whole lot else out there. Not great off the puck. That seems about right. But then you look at the fact that, this guy doesn't really play a whole lot. He clearly does not play in the playoffs. He's been scratched, and he gets healthy scratched quite often. He's unreliable in his own zone. The coach, not a big fan. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Nick Robertson, but I wouldn't be shocked to see it come in around 2 million, north of 2 million potentially.
Yeah, and I guess in a lot of ways that's probably what the Leafs are trying to avoid, right? They probably are just like, well, they just paid a bunch of players who are bottom six players, well over the $2 million. So I can kind of see probably also where Robinson's just like, if I was afforded the consistent opportunity, I could probably be a more consistent contributor on this team. So yeah, I don't know if it's will just be the money that, he'll obviously say, yes, I might not be getting in the lineup every day, but if I did, I probably would be a lot more productive. So there's definitely going to be that argument thrown out there to the Leafs.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see what happens. Again, August 3rd is the arbitration date, and the Leafs and Robertson have until they walk into the hearing to try and negotiate a contract outside of arbitration. But once the case starts and once the arbiter hears the cases, it's no longer the two parties that can hammer out a deal. Now it's up to the arbitrator to see what Robertson will be making next season. So again, August 3rd, the date there to kind of keep an eye on. We'll obviously update you when that information comes about. Nick Robertson, not showing up on my top 25 Leafs the last 25 years list. I'll tell you that, Dave. But we do got another crop of players that we'll be unveiling on our top 25 list. That's coming up next in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're building your wealth as well. I also like the fact that with Monarch, everything is done in one app. The convenience, I don't have to download all these different apps to track where my money is being spent, what I'm, all the different accounts it's coming out of. It also allows me to break it down into specific categories. So if I'm looking to save a little bit of money, I can try to budget out certain things that I may be spending more than I should be. And if you share finance with someone, it's also much more simpler with Monarch. It helps with your, breaks down your shared and also your individual accounts to make saving money with your partner a lot less stressful. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you as always. And we continue our top 25 Leafs of the last 25 years series. Today, we'll be unveiling players 15 through to 11. So just outside the top 10. So we're not unveiling top 10 yet. We'll do that next week. But just to a refresher, Dave, for the players who you've already unveiled 25 through 16.
All right, so 25 through 16, 25, Joffrey Lupul, 24, Tyler Bozak, 23, Jake McCabe, 22, Zach Hyman, 21, Jake Gardner, number 20, Dmitry Yuskevich, number 19, Darcy Tucker, number 18, Steve Thomas, number 17, James Van Riemsdyk, and rounding out the first 10 there is Frederick Anderson.
All right. For me, I had Nikolai Kulemin, TJ Brody, Nick Antropov at 23, Bozak 22, Jake McCabe 21, Zach Hyman, JVR at 19, Fred Anderson 18, Domi 17, and then Darcy Tucker came in at number 16. So, Dave, let's continue with our lists. Who came in as the 15th best Maple Leaf over the last 25 years?
Somebody that's getting a lot of attention right now in the media with the Leafs, and that is one Nazem Kadri.
Nazem the Dream.
Nazem the Dream.
Yeah. Continue.
This is a player that I was always a big fan of Naz when he was in Toronto. Obviously he came in with a lot of, fanfare. This team was looking for that, a guy that maybe could become a number one center. Bit of a tough start to his Leafs journey because with the Marlies. I'm trying to remember the coach that was with him in the Marlies became the Ducks head coach.
Greg or Cronin.
No, he went to Edmonton too after the Leafs.
Oh yeah. I'm looking right directly at his face.
I know Dallas Eakins.
Dallas Eakins, yes, Dallas Eakins. That's right.
They didn't exactly get along too well. But like when he was in Toronto, I was constantly begging for the Leafs to put this guy with Phil Kessel, right? Because Tyler Bozak was constantly the first line center. I'm like, you got a more talented, driven center, Nazem Kadri. See what he can do at 1C. But he was great in Toronto. Like he put up pretty decent production for, a guy that had to kind of work his way into those roles. And then when he left, a lot of people missed Naz.
Yep.
A lot of people missed him, especially when you saw what he did with Colorado in the playoffs. Like, yeah, regular season, I think his last season, Colorado, he had over a point per game. That was the only time he was ever more than a point per game player. But easily a 50 to 60 point guy. The career high was 87 outside of Leafs. But like even when he was in Toronto, 61 points, pretty decent for a guy who didn't really have a lot of talent to work with and got his role pushed significantly down when John Tavares came to town.
Yes, 100%. Because like the years where he was in the top six with Marner, with Matthews, with Nylander, he popped off. Like 32 goals in Matthews' first season, 32 goals in the year after that. And then here came John Tavares, and his numbers went down from being a 30-goal guy to a 16-goal guy for Nazem Kadri. And obviously, we all know what happened. They decided that they were too strong down the middle. They needed help on the blue line, so they traded for Tyson Barrie and Alex Kerfoot. One of the worst deals in Leafs history, realistically. And all these years later, Toronto still wants Nazem Kadri back in the lineup. And I'm not sure it happens, but we shall see. Kadri does come up on my list today, too. So there's one overlap we have. Won't tell you where, but that's one overlap. Who comes in at number 14 for you?
Number 14 for me, and we had a bit of a talk about where we would rank goalies on this list.
I have a feeling we have very similar lists today. Continue, though.
I put Ed Belfour here.
Yeah.
Not because he wasn't a good goalie. He was a really good goalie for this Leafs team. But he was not here very long. Like that was always my biggest beef. We got this great goalie, but they're only here for 3 years. And frankly, he only had 2 good years in Toronto. His first year out of the lockout, not very good. That was also because he was 40. So
right.
I give him, I'm not saying it's because he stunk. It's because, he was 37 when he came to Toronto and he put up fantastic numbers. Like,
yeah,
in the playoffs, in his 2 years with the Leafs in the playoffs, 923 save percentage, 234 goals against. I think for the longest time, he, his 37 wins, like just a stud in net. But
His first year in Toronto, he finishes a top 3 Vezina finalist
Yeah.
and then was top 10 Hart candidate in the second year prior to the lockout. He was a
He
stud
was
for those 2 years for Toronto.
like Toronto never really had an amazing blue line, but they didn't need one because they had elite goaltending. Even late in his career, we're talking past his prime at Belfour, because at Belfour in his prime was just a thing of beauty. Like when you think about what he was able to accomplish throughout his career. Yeah, but my thing with him, and the reason why I have him ranked lower, is because he just wasn't here very long.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, coming in at number 13 for you.
So number 13 for me is another blast from the past, Gary Roberts.
Ooh, Gary Roberts. Go ahead.
Such an underrated Leaf. You know, there were times where Matt Sundin was dealing with an injury. Didn't matter. They had Gary Roberts there. Played 4 years in Toronto, had 157 points, 83 goals, but where he really stood out was in the playoffs. That's where Gary Roberts was the man for the Leafs, especially in 01-02 when they went to the conference final. 7 goals, 19 points, and 19 games played. Like, he probably would have been a top 3 Conn Smythe Trophy candidate for the Leafs if they went to the Stanley Cup final. That's how good I thought Gary Roberts was for this Leafs team. Like, I also get that, you know, he was better, way better before he got to Toronto, but he was such a, like, just to think you had Gary Roberts on your team. Like, just I always have to remember, like, kind of pinch myself to remind myself. But I think a lot of people remember that when Matt Sundin wasn't able to play in the playoffs because of that eye injury he had, Gary Roberts was the guy who pretty much he wasn't the captain, but he played that role as the captain.
He dragged him. There. He was what he had, team leading 19 points that year in 19 games, going to the Eastern Conference Final. Farthest the team's been. They haven't been there since. But Roberts was the guy that led them there. He absolutely, that was an unbelievable playoff for him at 35 years old too. Like, he wasn't a spring chicken when he did that. Like, 35 years old, ripping off points, 19 points in 19 games in the postseason, 56 PIMs too, which was second to only Ty Domi in that playoff run as well. So Gary Roberts, the lore is there from that playoff run alone to put him on this list. He shows up on mine too. But yeah, Gary Roberts, stud for those few years he was with the Maple Leafs. Okay, who comes in for you at you're at 12?
At number 12, defenseman Brian McCabe.
Caber. All right. We got Caber coming off the board.
There was nothing I loved more than watching Brian McCabe wind up for a slap shot. That dude could rip the puck. Him, like, I remember when people got so upset because Thomas Cabot, all he did was just pass the puck. Love the pass the puck. When you're passing it to Brian McCabe, and that guy could rip the puck, didn't matter. Like, I was just one of my fond memories of the Leafs. Yeah, it kind of soured near the end, unfortunately, when he scored on his own net. But
yeah, I was trying not to remember that memory.
Yeah,
look at the positives, Dave. The positives.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna run off the points that he had when he joined the Leafs: 29 and 82, 43 and 82, 24 and 75, 53 and 75, 68 and 73 games, 57 and 82, and then 23 and 54. The guy had 15 or more goals in 4 seasons with the Leafs. Like, we always criticize the fact that the Leafs did not have a guy that could score from the point. Doesn't have that slap shot. He would be exactly what this team needs nowadays. But I'm also going to bring up one other thing, because this man not only was bold with his play on the ice, but also his hair choice. The good old mohawk. Helmet didn't exactly do it justice, but man, that guy, they talk about bleeding blue and white. He also dyed the hair blue and white.
Yeah.
For those watch on YouTube. Like Brian McCabe not only cut his hair like a mohawk, but he dyed it in blue.
Oh, Caber. All right, so you got Brian McCabe coming in at number 12. Who rounds out your list today at number 11 on the top 25 Maple Leafs of the last 25 years?
Some people might not like the fact that I don't have him in my top 10.
Oh?
Phil Kessel.
Oh, Kessel at 11. All right.
Just outside of the top 10. I knew if I was going to have him there, I was going to have him close. Great point producer, but he was miscasted when he came to Toronto. He was fit, like he should have been a guy that could get 40 goals. But everyone thought maybe he was higher than that, right? Maybe he was a guy that could get to 50. I heard that one point. He was a good player. He just was not the Toronto fit. But I give him so much credit for, leading the charge in so many ways. He did not have a great supporting cast. Like, he was one of the few Leafs that in that era that put up 80 plus points in a year. I didn't know that was possible, right? Like, we didn't have a player like that.
What if he had guys to pass him the puck? Like, that's kind of the thing when it comes to.
I was calling.
He had Tyler Bozak passing him the puck. What
if he had Naz? Give me Naz with Phil. Come on, Randy.
Even Naz though, what if it was Marner? This guy would be a 40, 45 goal scorer every year, probably.
I mean, let's not forget what happened once he left Toronto. The guy went on to just be in he won a couple cups. Let's start with that one first. 2 in a row.
He did win. Yes, he did win some cups.
People forget he had 92 points with the Penguins one year.
Dude, he probably should have won. I don't remember what year it was, the first or second cup that they won. He probably should have won Conn Smythe over Sid. I firmly believe that.
He had 22 points in 24 games, 23 and 25. And to me, that's where I didn't have him as high on my list, because as good as his career was outside of Toronto, with Toronto, he did what he could, right? He did what he could. He put up some goals in that one playoff round against Boston in the year we shall not name. But ultimately, it's just he was a good player, but he also the spotlight of Toronto got to him. I don't know if you ever forget the rant he went on when the media was going after Dion Phaneuf, and he's just like, "You guys are idiots." Remember?
You're an idiot, man. A bunch of
idiots here. Yeah. I had a Phil Kessel jersey at one point.
Good one, Randy. Good one. Another little Phil one-liner.
It's just unfortunately. He was brought in at the wrong. He was brought in as a piece to help bring this team forward when they needed a lot more than Phil Kessel to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. That rounds out Dave's list of 15 through 11. Quickly run it down one more time.
So 15 through 11, we've got Nazem Kadri, Ed Belfour, Gary Roberts, Brian McCabe, and Phil Kessel.
All right, there it is. Players 15 through 11 on my list. Coming up next in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Price on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. The Blue Jays are playing some fantastic baseball. You want to get down to the Dome, get yourself some tickets using the Gametime app, the official ticketing partner of the Locked On Network, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming games down at Rogers Center. Tired of the endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Gametime Zone Deals picks the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On and Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every day. Well, 3 days a week here in the summer, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We've been going over our top 25 Maple Leafs the last 25 years, little quarter century team. And today we're going through players 15 through 11. So if you've missed the last couple of lists, we're doing 5 players each day over the course of 5 shows. If you missed the first 2, go back, check it out, and listen to our rankings. But players 15 through 11 today, Dave gave his list. There's a lot of overlap, lots of overlap on our list here today. So we could probably keep it pretty short for mine because I kind of piped in with some of my information, I guess, when you unveiled your list. But coming in at number 15 for me, Dave, is someone you don't even have on your list. This is where I have Dion Phaneuf. I got Dion Phaneuf coming in at number 15. The captain, great, what a captain he was. Oh, captain, my captain. But on a serious note, played 7 years here in Toronto. He was the captain, however much you want to goof on that. Was he miscast as a top pair guy? Yeah, sure he was. That's not his fault that the team kind of overanalyzed what he could become. The guy was playing over 24 minutes a game. In his time in Toronto, played 423 games. 423 games. He averaged 24 minutes and 22 seconds per game, Dave. That is the definition of a workhorse. So Phaneuf was out there nearly half the game for this team. It was the lean years. They kind of stunk. And he was a warrior. He took a lot of bullets for this club. 45 goals, 196 points. The offense clearly not there. But what was there was the warrior aspect. Second all time for the Maple Leafs in hits and blocked shots. So the guy was putting his body on the line, laying some thunderous checks. He was always willing to block shots on the penalty kill. And that's something that, to me, it will always hold a soft spot. You put your body on the line for this team, for the crest, you're definitely, a plus player in my books. And I think Dion did do that. And he did not put up the numbers you wanted him to. Obviously, his early years in Calgary looked like he was going to be an offensive defenseman, like a stud offensive defenseman. He had a 20-goal season, couple 17-goal seasons, and then really only had one double-digit goal season once he hit Toronto. Career best 12-goal, 44 points. Did get him to the All-Star game back in 2011, 2012. He was 11th in Norris voting that year. But yeah, Dion to me certainly deserves to be on this list. I think kind of smack dab in the middle, kind of here at 15 is an appropriate ranking.
Yeah, I just kind of felt the Phaneuf. Phaneuf was a guy that brought in a lot of prestige and stuff, but just didn't hit with me, right? Yeah, he played a lot of minutes, but he also just resembled a lot of what went wrong with the Leafs era. And you talk about captain. He was captaining a sinking ship.
Yeah,
more often than not.
Well, he was also there were some bad moments as captain. Waffle Gate was with Dion.
Salute Gate was his as
Salute
well.
Gate, where they decided not to do the salute after the game, which he's come out and publicly said was probably the worst decision that he ever made as a captain was to not do that with the team. But still, Dion deserves some recognition for what he did with the Maple Leafs. So I got him here at number 15. Coming at number 14, there's going to be a lot of overlap the rest of the way here, Dave. Coming in at 14, I got Nazem Kadri. For a lot of the same reasons that you mentioned, heart and soul guy, played 561 games in Toronto, far less games than I think most people wanted him to play. But he had 357 points, 814 hits, 30th all time in Leaf scoring. I didn't realize he was actually that high in Leaf scoring on the leaderboard there, but top 30 player is Nazem Kadri. But everyone always, the downside to Kadri and why I think I had him at 14 is the playoffs, right? Like that's where the difference kind of comes in with Naz. Just 3 goals, 10 points through 19 games, but 2 costly suspensions. And that's what got him shipped out of here, right? Regrettably, at the end of the day, I think everyone regrets that trade and that decision. But that's probably the reason why he's a little lower on my list. The playoffs there, the suspensions, the reliability or lack thereof for Kadri, that cost him a little bit on this list. So I got him here at 14.
Yeah, it always bugged me if he had just a little more discipline, right? What could have been for him in Toronto, and like he wasn't traded because he wasn't playing well. He was traded mainly because he couldn't be trusted.
Yeah, couldn't be trusted. The exact same hit, 2 years in a row. The exact same hit. It was insane. But yeah, it cost him his Leaf career. And he hated it. He hated when he got traded. Like, he did not want to leave Toronto. He did not want to go to Calgary. Or he didn't want to go to he didn't want to go anywhere. He ended up in Colorado. Worked out very well for him. He won a Stanley Cup, had a career year, got paid very handsomely when he ended up in Calgary eventually. But yeah, Nazem Kadri coming in at number 14 for me. At number 13, I've got Eddie the Eagle Belfour. This, like I said, is going to sound very familiar, the rest of my list here. But Ed Belfour played 3 years, and as you noted, 2 great seasons and 1 not-so-good season. But he had 170 games with the Maple Leafs, a 93, 61, and 15 record, a 912 save percentage with Toronto, 17 shutouts through those 3 years. But the playoffs is really where the shine was for Belfour. 923 save percentage through 20 games, 234 goals against, and he had 3 shutouts in that 03-04 playoff run to the second round. He was unbelievable. And to go from like Cujo to Belfour was very lucky for the Maple Leafs to be able to kind of cash in. They had a star goaltender leave and had a star goaltender come back. And for years, whenever we talked about the goalie situation in Toronto, it was, man, haven't had a goaltender since Belfour. Leafs haven't had a goalie since Belfour. And then finally, they got some stability in Freddie Anderson, but it's taken them a couple of years since Anderson's left to really find stability. It's been a revolving door since. They might have an answer here in Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz, but until they give you, a few years of stability, you can't really say that. So the Leafs are still kind of looking for, that next best goalie since Ed Belfour. But he comes in at number 13 for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great goalie. Just wish we got him in his prime.
Yeah.
Who knows what could have been. But hopefully, one of the goaltenders we have now can step up and be that, maybe that next guy, hopefully.
Would be nice. Would be very, very nice. All right, coming at number 12. This is where I also have Brian McCabe on my list, coming in at number 12. Caber, 523 games as a Maple Leaf, 297 points. He had 169 power play points. Like, most of his production came on the power play. And I think that's what we all will remember Brian McCabe for, as you noted. Like, every time, you talk about the Leafs, and we say haven't had a great goalie since Belfour. Well, how often did you hear, man, haven't had a power play quarterback since McCabe? Like, it's kind of the exact same conversation where we keep looking back, and it's been 20 years since they filled that role, right? So for me, Brian McCabe, he was a warrior too. He was out there, played a lot of minutes, played a lot of time. They had lots of success while McCabe was here. So he came in at number 12 for me. And then McCabe.
Who do you got? Yeah, no, I'm kind of glad we both are right on that one. But who do you got on your last? Who's your last guy on this?
Gary Roberts. Gary Roberts at number 11. So we're very much on the same page with this one. We had one different guy. Like you had Kessel, but like I had Phaneuf. That was the only difference on this list. But yeah, for me, like Gary Roberts, a short stint in Toronto, but man, what an impactful stint he had. 237 games, 157 points, made the All-Star team in 304 before the lockout. They made the playoffs every single year. But you noted that run to the conference final in 2001, 2002 was unbelievable. At 35 years old, you had Gary Roberts playing 19 and a half minutes, led the team with 19 points in 19 games. He was terrific. And, obviously he was past his prime, but man, did he ever score some big goals in the postseason. So Gary Roberts, also a heart and soul guy, played the game the right way, played it hard, competitive. You want to embody, like you talk about a player that Craig Berube, if he could kind of, mold somebody to play like that guy, like Gary Roberts would be a Craig Berube guy. So he comes in at number 11 to round out my players 15 through to 11 for my top 25 Leafs the last 25 years. So I had Dion Phaneuf at 15, Nazem Kadri at 14, Ed Belfour at 13, Brian McCabe at 12, and then Gary Roberts I had at 11.
Pretty solid list.
Yeah. Thank you. I think a lot of those names were solid, which means your list also solid because we had 4 of the 5 same top 15. Again, you had Kessel, but that's only because I have Dion on my list and you don't, or else maybe Nas would have been 15. Maybe Kessel would have been next up. I don't know. Maybe it would be next up. We'll have to find out by watching the next episode on Monday to see what players 10 through 6 are for the Maple Leafs on this list. So again, be sure to catch us again on Monday. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms, including YouTube, and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at @D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys Monday, ranking players 10 through 6. We get to the top 10 Leafs of the last 25 years, and that'll be on Monday's show. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.